Good afternoon. I invite you to take a seat and listen to the prelude. Welcome and happy Mother's Day. I am Carrie McAvoy, an intern minister here at Community Church, and I welcome you on behalf of our ministry team, our staff, and all our lay leaders. It is good to be together, both in person and online. Community Church is a multiracial, multicultural, multi-generational congregation with a vision and a commitment to build a world grounded in equity and inclusion. Our worship team today is Jerry Brown, our music director, Darnell White, our musician in residence, our choir, and Errol de los Santos, our communications coordinator. We have a simple order of service available for those who are in the room. On it, you'll see a QR code so you can access this week's announcements. For those online, you should have a link to the program and announcements. Please rise in body or in spirit, and let us sing together our opening hymn, Spirit of Life, number 123 in the gray hymnal. Thank you. You may be seated. It is good to be together on this day and on all days. In this space, may we kindle the connections that inspire our lives here in this community. Our call to worship comes from Micah Busey. This is a tiny prayer for those who mother in myriad ways. May you feel the love and nurture you pour into the world come flooding back to you in waves of gratitude, of patience, of commitment to interdependence. And may we all remember that the power of mothering is most profoundly felt in subtle and simple nudges, like reminders to take care of one another, to listen, to ask for what we need, to admit to our mistakes, to try again, and to wash our hands. And for all of us, may we feel loved and nurtured into the people we are called to be in this glorious and broken world. Amen. We will now have the sung chalice lighting. Please join me in our chalice lighting words. We light this candle, the flame of our heritage. May it ignite hope in our lives, in our community, and in the world. And now let us join our voices together for our unison affirmation. Unto the Church Universal, which is the depository of all ancient wisdom and the school of all modern thought, which recognizes in all prophets a harmony, in all scriptures a unity, and through all dispensations a continuity, which abjures all that separates and divides, and always magnifies humanity and peace, which seeks truth in freedom, justice in love, and individual discipline in social duty, and which shall make of all persons one beloved community, unto this church and unto all its members, known and unknown throughout the world. We pledge the allegiance of our hands and hearts. And now let us speak our land acknowledgement. We are gathered on the unceded land of the Lenape peoples. I ask you to join me in acknowledging the Lenape community, past and present generations. Community Church of New York also acknowledges that it was founded upon exclusions and erasures of many indigenous peoples, including those on whose land this institution is located. This acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to beginning the process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. And now I invite you to greet your neighbors. Thank you. Let us return to our seats. I invite us into a space of meditation and prayer. These are Mother's Day blessing words written by our own senior minister, Reverend Peggy Clark. To those who gave birth this year to their first child, we celebrate with you. To those who lost a child this year, we mourn with you. To those who are in the trenches with little ones every day and wear the badge of food stains, we appreciate you. To those who experience loss through miscarriage, failed adoptions, or running away, we mourn with you. To those who walk the hard path of infertility, fraught with pokes, prods, tears, and disappointment, we walk with you. To those who are foster moms, mentor moms, and spiritual moms, we need you. To those who have warm and close relationships with your children, we celebrate with you. To those who have disappointment, heartache, and distance with your children, we sit with you. To those who lost their mothers this year, we grieve with you. To those who experienced abuse at the hands or through the words of your own mother, we acknowledge your experience. To those who lived through driving tests, medical tests, and the overall testing of motherhood, we are better for having you in our midst. To those who have aborted children, we hold you in the complexity of your experience. To those who are single and long to be married and mothering your own children, we mourn that life has not turned out the way you longed for it to be. To those who step-parent, we walk with you on these complex paths. To those who envision lavishing love on grandchildren, yet that dream is not to be, we grieve with you. To those who will have emptier nests in the upcoming year, we grieve and rejoice with you. To those who place children up for adoption, we commend you for your selflessness and remember how you hold that child in your heart. And to those who are pregnant with new life, both expected and surprising, we anticipate with you. This is Mother's Day. We walk with you. Mothering is not for the faint of heart, and we have real warriors in our midst. We are grateful for you all. We hold in prayer our own Esther Rosado, who is resting in hospital. May she be held in love and healing energy. May all the joys, griefs, and hopes we carry in our heart, both unspoken and spoken, be held in prayer. Amen. An excerpt from Alice Walker in Search of Our Mother's Gardens. Our mothers and grandmothers have, more often than not anonymously, handed on the creative spark, the seed of the flower they themselves never hoped to see, or like a sealed letter they could not plainly read. The artist that was and is my mother showed itself to me only after many years. This is what I finally noticed. My mother, adorned with flowers, whatever shabby house we were forced to live in, and not just your typical straggly country stand of zinnias either. She planted ambitious gardens and still does, with over 50 different varieties of plants that bloom profusely from early March until late November. Before she left home for the fields, she watered her flowers, chopped up the grass, and laid out new beds. When she returned from the fields, she might divide clumps of bulbs, dig a cold pit, uproot and replant roses, or prune branches from her taller bushes or trees until night came and it was too dark to see. Because of her creativity with flowers, even my memories of poverty are seen through a screen of blooms. Sunflowers, petunias, roses, dahlias, forsythia, spirea, delphiniums, verbena, and on and on. I notice that it is only when my mother is working in her flowers that she is radiant, almost to the point of being invisible except as creator, hand, and eye. She is involved in work her soul must have, ordering the universe in the image of her personal conception of beauty. For her, so hindered and intruded upon in so many ways, being an artist has still been a daily part of her life. This ability to hold on, even in very simple ways, is work Black women have done for a very long time. Happy Mother's Day to all of you who are mothers or grandmothers or great-grandmothers, great-great-grandmothers. Happy Mother's Day to all of you who have had mothers who have loved and nurtured you into who you are today. And I hold all of you in love who find Mother's Day a difficult day, for as wide a variety of reasons as there are those who are struggling today. Mother's Day is complicated. Like many other holidays that are meant to be joyful, it's meant to celebrate the bonds of love between a mother and a child. It's meant to honor our mothers whose sacrifices have nurtured us into the people we are today. Some of us have had the bond between mother and child broken too soon. Not all of us have had healthy relationships with our mothers. Not all of us who wanted to be a mother have been able to. Some of us find society's image of mother too gender-specific, too limiting, too constrictive. If we truly are celebrating motherly love today, this day is big enough to hold celebration and gratitude and grief and pain and many more emotions than I could possibly list. I believe that parenthood is one of the most hopeful, important, and difficult jobs one can have. I chose not to be a parent. My relationship with my mother has been complicated. My mother had 5 children within 7 years. She was what was called at the time a homemaker. She had many good qualities, but being nurturing was not one of them. She had a complicated relationship with her mother, and her mother had a complicated relationship with her mother. Some of my work in seminary has been acknowledging the role that history and the lives of our ancestors continue to have in our own lives. If my parents didn't experience their parents as loving and nurturing, where else would they learn it? Dynamics of our most formative relationships often get lived out in our own relationships. When we inherit unhealthy patterns, our only way out is through our own healing of intentional choices to do relationships differently than we experienced ourselves. This self-healing is also one of the most hopeful, important, and difficult jobs one can have. Until 6 generations ago, enslaved African Americans were unable to marry. Family bonds were intentionally and forcibly broken. Enslaved women often became pregnant not through expressions of love, but through violence. Children were too often separated from their mothers and their communities. Even after the end of slavery, African American families were split due to limited economic opportunities, high rates of imprisonment, and forced labor. Some of these conditions exist today. Less than 4 generations ago, Indigenous children were taken from their families and moved into Indian boarding schools. After the boarding schools were closed, policies of adoption continued to split Indigenous families. Just a few years ago, we witnessed children being separated from their parents at the US-Mexican border, and this practice continues today. How do these heartbreaking and brutal family separations continue to affect the dynamics of family life today? For myself, being of white European ancestry, how has the history of intentional separation of families and communities continued to affect my life? How were my ancestors responsible and complicit in these brutal practices? And how does that brutality and complicity continue to play out in the dynamics of family life today? Quite honestly, that loving and nurturing family bonds exist today speaks to the power of the human heart to love and the strength and resilience which allows the human soul to heal from deep spiritual and psychological wounds, both those inflicted on others and experienced from others. Many of our families have had to reinvent what it means to have healthy and nurturing relationships. In the reading earlier, Alice Walker speaks to this intentional generational tending to the human soul as she describes her mother's artistry. About her mother's gardening, Ms. Walker writes, "She is involved in work her soul must have, ordering the universe in the image of her personal conception of beauty. For her, so hindered and intruded upon in so many ways, being an artist has still been a daily part of her life." Ms. Walker writes about her mother's artistry as she explores her own need to write. Just like she knew it was a balancing act, time writing meant time not spent with her daughter. Just like time her mother spent tending her garden meant time not spent with her family. But Ms. Walker knew, as her mother knew, that tending to the creative impulse created wholeness within, which made them better people and better parents. Ms. Walker writes, "Guided by my heritage of love, of beauty, and a respect for strength, in search of my mother's garden, I found my own." The first Mother's Day was in 1907 when Anna Jarvis held a memorial service to her mother. 7 years later, President Woodrow Wilson declared Mother's Day a national holiday. It quickly became commercialized as people bought greeting cards and flowers and other gifts for those who had played maternal roles in their lives. So much so that Anna Jarvis spent much of her final years decrying the commercialization of the day and trying to abolish Mother's Day altogether. Beyond the commercialization of a holiday, I wonder if the Mother's Day Hallmark sentiments actually do more harm than good. I'm all for frequently expressing gratitude to those in our lives who have helped us become the people we are today. But why do we need to separate the honoring of mothers in May and the honoring of fathers in June? How does separation of motherly and fatherly roles perpetuate harmful, sexist, and patriarchal stereotypes? How can we go beyond the Hallmark card sentiments about motherhood to expand our concepts of who can fulfill child-rearing roles traditionally assigned to women? How can we move away from the unhealthy ideal of motherhood as all sacrificing towards shared parenthood and communal support systems? How can we learn to see parenthood as one among many paths towards personal fulfillment? When I think about the Mother's Day Hallmark cards, I think of what U.S. society upholds as the ideal mother, the one who's always there for their children after spending a fulfilling day at the office, keeps a perfectly clean house, prepares 3 healthy meals for her children every day, and has time to unwind in a bubble bath with a glass of wine at the end of the day. How unrealistic is this ideal? And why is it the mother's sole responsibility to work and care for the children and the house, and then is the one who receives the judgment for falling short? How can we let go of this Hallmark card version of motherhood and instead work towards healthy families? Bell Hooks writes in her book, Feminism is for Everybody, Passionate Politics. In a culture that holds the 2-parent patriarchal family in higher esteem than any other arrangement, all children feel emotionally insecure when their family does not measure up to the standard. A utopian vision of the patriarchal family remains intact despite all the evidence which proves that the well-being of children is no more secure than the dysfunctional male-headed household than in the dysfunctional female-headed household. Children need to be raised in loving environments. Wherever domination is present, love is lacking. Loving parents, be they single or coupled, gay or straight, headed by females or males, are more likely to raise healthy, happy children with sound self-esteem. We need to work harder to show parents the ways ending sexism positively changes family life. Feminist movement is pro-family. Ending patriarchal domination of children by men or women is the only way to make the family a place where children can be safe, where they can be free, where they can know love. How can we build a world that is truly pro-family? How can we get out of the normative view that family is one man and one woman who live all in the same house, and that a woman is defined by motherhood, and where a man is defined by their work and strength, and a woman is defined by their ability to nurture? When will we begin to see how unsustainable and even undesirable this normal family model is for most people in the world, let alone this country? How can we build a world that nurtures whole human beings, whether they choose to or are able to raise children or not? How can we build a world that nurtures whole human beings who all have enough to thrive, healthy of mind, body, and spirit, with safe shelter in which to live with whomever they please, meaningful work, outlets for creativity, and full of boundless compassion? That's the kind of Hallmark card world I want to see. Many of us have been deeply angered or discouraged by the recent leak of the Supreme Court draft document that indicates intent to overturn Roe versus Wade. I find it interesting that this happened in the week leading up to Mother's Day. For if anything is anti-mother, that would be it. If this document portends the end of Roe versus Wade, we all know how dire the consequences will be for many who will face unwanted pregnancies, particularly those who already face hardships in their lives. Those who oppose abortion and reproductive rights may be upholding their so-called family values, but they are not pro-family. Imposing limits on abortion and reproductive rights are about patriarchal power over those who have or may become pregnant. It simplifies a very complex narrative about healthy families into the act of birthing a child. It does nothing to create a world where a person who faces an unwanted pregnancy is empowered to decide in a spirit of love and without judgment what is best for them and a potential baby. It does nothing to create a world where a child who is born from an unwanted pregnancy and their family will have an environment in which to thrive. Sister Song is the largest multi-ethnic reproductive justice collective. They suggest that to achieve reproductive justice, which includes abortion rights, we must do 4 things. We must analyze power systems and fight against reproductive politics in the US, which are based on gendered, sexualized, and racialized acts of dominance. 2, we must address intersecting oppressions. Marginalized women face multiple oppressions, and freedom can only be won by addressing how these oppressions impact one another. 3, we must center the most marginalized in our society. The most vulnerable people in our society must be able to live self-determined lives without fear, discrimination, or retaliation. 4, we must join together across issues and identities. All oppressions impact our reproductive lives. Only if we come together as one movement will we have the power to win freedom for all oppressed people. Analyze systems of power, address intersecting oppressions, center the most marginalized people, and join together. Later today, I'll call my mom and thank her for all she has done to help me become the person I am today. Then, I'll do what I can to fight for reproductive justice so that all people can make their own decisions about what is right for them and their families, and in so doing, grow into the whole people they are called to be in this world. For those of you celebrating today, I see you. For those of you grieving today, I see you. For those of you in pain or angry, I see you too. And for all of you with more than one or any emotions, I see you. Today is complicated. I want to thank you for being part of this community. Motherhood is complicated, raising children is complicated, growing up is complicated, life is complicated. Today, may we be gentle with ourselves, understand that perfection is not the goal, and remember that with each moment, with each breath, comes an opportunity to become the whole people we are called to be. May it be so. Please rise as you are able and join in singing number 128 in the Gray Hymnal, For All That Is Our Life. Life at Community Church is active, whether we are online or in person. It is our hope that wherever you are and whatever way you are comfortable engaging in the mission and ministry of this church, we have provided opportunities for you. Every Sunday we pray together, and during that time we hold up the concerns that you are carrying with you. If you'd like to submit these concerns in advance, you can do that now on our website. Simply click Prayer Request on the top menu. Also on our website, you'll find Community Connections, which has been transformed into a multimedia experience with daily updates. Visit through ccny.org, where you'll also see instructions on submitting your own articles and artwork. On Saturday, May 21st at 4 p.m., there will be a virtual memorial service to honor the life and music of Gersel Henry. You will find information about the service on the Community Church website. We are going to join the Poor People's Campaign March on Washington, which will be happening on June 18th. Please reach out to me, Carrie McAvoy, if you're interested in joining us. We are a 7-day church, and most of our programming happens on Zoom. If you'd like to connect with other UUs, check the website and your program for the schedule. Every Sunday, we pass a basket to support the many ministries of this congregation. Our spiritual home thrives as a result of your generosity of time, talent, and treasure. We receive these gifts in gratitude. Please join me in our chalice extinguishing words. Knowing how quickly the flame of truth may be extinguished, how easily the chalice of fellowship broken, let us be vigilant in faith, keep peace in our hearts, and make care for one another the watchword of our lives together. So our light goes out into the world. Our light goes out into the world, bringing hope and healing to all the places where it's needed. Let us go in peace to love and serve the world and one another.